So you want to make cheap grass. Well, this is the place to be. I'm going to show you how to make a simple blade of grass and make a field out of it and actually make it look slightly realistic in a very cheap and very time inexpensive way. Let's see. Let's go to the front view and I'll ask for a polygon. And this polygon needs to be at z minus, so it's straight up. And I want a triangle. Now, let's see, the width doesn't need to be that broad. So I'm just going to put it down to 8. And don't need to bother with segments right away. I know it's 100 tall, so that's good. And I'm just going to make it editable. Now, let's put this thing 50 into the y-axis, and let's put the pivot point down at the bottom, where actually the grass is growing from, and let's cut this. So taking the knife tool, the K on your keyboard, I'm just working at 16 right now. I'm just going to cut it so that it can actually bend in some kind of animation or something. I've just made about 4 cuts, so you got 5 polygons, 1 triangle, 4 quads. Right, this is my blade of grass. And in order to make a field, I need to use some kind of trick. So I'm just going to get out of pivot mode here. I'm just going to use the simulate and going to introduce a particle emitter. Now, first of all, it's going to emit this way along the z-axis, and I'm just going to rotate it so that it actually puts everything right at the bottom and pointing upwards. Now, how big is your field going to be? Now I'm just going to add a 0, so going from 100 to 1,000. Now, my grass is not going to fly off as soon as it's created, so I'm going to put the speed down to 0. The scale is actually going to vary about 25%. So I'm going to get blades of 125 instead of 100 and 75 instead of 100, and in between there. I want to see the objects, and I'm just going to plop in the blade. And what else? Let's extend my... actually, this is okay. I'm going to put blades of grass for the first 60 frames. So I'm going to need a ridiculous amount of particles. Don't put this any higher than 600. And I'm just going to see what it does. Now, after frame 60, it's not going to put any more grass in it. So I'm just going to pause it. And this is what I got now. A very strict, regular field. It doesn't look very organic. For this purpose, it has enough grass. You can put in more. Let's put a box around this whole thing, and I'm going to tell you later on why. First of all, press H in the side view, and I'm going to introduce a box, and this box is going to be, let's see, about this high. And I know that it's going to be 1008. So make it slightly bigger than your emitter. 1008. And let's see now. We only need half of this size. So I'm just going to put it divided by 2. So this is how big my box has to be. And it has to be sitting on top of the floor. So let's put it up. What's this then? I'm just going to copy that over. I'm just going to put that here, divided by 2, and it's exactly in the right spot. Now, why did I need the box? I hate fiddling around with the FFD object to get it matching to something that I can't really see. So I made a cube. It's sort of like the coffin for the grass, and I'm just going to put it over the cube and fit to parent, and that should be it. This is perfect. Okay, I'm just going to pump up the number of subdivisions on the FFD object, and I'm just going to take out the FFD, delete the cube. Now this grass is of course still from the emitter, so it's not really editable right now. So I'm just going to hit the C, and what it does is it makes a null object out of the emitter and just puts in thousands of blades of grass. So I'm just going to keep this locked up. Select the two, Alt-G, put it in a group, and now we're getting somewhere. Okay, let's create a material. And it's grass, so it's, well, let's make that green. And it does have a highlight, but a very strict highlight, so I'm just going to put the highlight up and the fall off, put it way down. That's a nice blade of grass. I'm just going to stick that to the emitter, and that will cover the whole grass thing. Now put a floor in, and I'll put in, no, I'm not going to put in the light. I'll do that later on. Now what we need to do is go to the side view. I don't want to adjust the points of the FFD object at the bottom. So I'm going to go to point mode, go to the FFD, and I'm first going to select through all the points, all these at the bottom, and go to select and hide selected. So we'll hide the points. They're still there, but they're hidden. And next thing I'm going to do is go to the FFD object. I'm still in the, I don't think I have to select them, but I did select them. I'm just going to go to the top, and this is where I see my field from the top. I'm going to do some trickery with the magnet tool right here, transform tools, magnet. Now pump up the scale a little bit. I'll just leave it to 100. I'm just doing something random. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger, and I can just do this and do this. So it's kind of like a brush, but you can do lots of stuff. So I just fiddled around with it a little bit. Now what I'm getting is basically this. Maybe it's a little bit too much. I'm just going to put up the target spot and just pump up the size of my spot and give it some shadows. Just do soft shadow. And let's see. This is a nice angle. And you get a patch of grass. Maybe a little bit of a bald patch, but if you make the surface smaller and you can use instances of a singular patch of grass, you can actually, with a fairly low number of polygons, make a fairly big patch of grass. Now, of course, if you go to the emitter, well, let's see, let's go to the top view, and I would use a brush, sort of like a brush-like thing, to make my selections. Let's see if this works. Like this. You can edit the grass. You can cut that out. And now I did something wrong. Hang on. Let's see. No, I shouldn't cut out the light. Not the null object. And not the emitter. Alright, this should do it. I'll delete that. I've mown the lawn. So this will work. I chucked my FFD object. Alright, great. But you catch my drift. You can undo this until you get your FFD back. Stupid mistake. Oh well.